All right, everybody, welcome back. Ready to dive into another fascinating corner of history?
Always up for a good deep dive. What are we tackling today?
Well, our listeners have spoken, and they want to talk military blunders. You know, those what were they thinking moments that make you question everything.
Ah, yes. The battle plans that looked great on paper, but went horribly wrong in reality.
Exactly. And we've got some interesting source material to work with, like this top 10 stupid military blunders list. But we're not just going to list them off, we're going to dissect them, figure out what went wrong, why, and what we can learn from them. Because let's face it, everyone loves a good train wreck story.
Especially when it involves, thousands of people and potentially the fate of nations. But you're right. These blunders, as much as they were colossal mistakes, offer incredible insight into decision-making under pressure, the evolution of warfare, and the dangers of underestimating your opponent.
And maybe, just maybe, they'll help us avoid making similar blunders in our own lives, even if it's just forgetting to pick up milk from the store.
Well, I can't promise anything about the milk, but I can tell you this. Understanding these historical mishaps can definitely make us better thinkers, strategists, even just better at understanding human nature.
And that's what we're all about here. So where do we even begin with military blunders? I mean, history is chock full of them.
It really is. But I think one of the key things to remember is that these weren't just about bad decisions in isolation.
You're saying there's more to it than just, oh, they messed up.
Exactly. We need to consider the context, the assumptions made, the information available at the time, the technological limitations, the pressures these leaders were facing.
Right, like you can't judge the strategies of, say, Julius Caesar by the same standards as World War II.
Exactly. A great example of this is the charge of the Light Brigade during the Crimean War.
Oh yeah, the one where the British cavalry charged straight into Russian cannons?
The very same. Now, cavalry charges were already becoming increasingly risky with advancements in weaponry.
Makes sense. You can't exactly outrun a cannonball.
No, you really can't. And yet, in this case, the Light Brigade, known for its speed and shock value, was ordered to charge headfirst into the teeth of the Russian guns. It was a massacre.
I bet. What on earth went wrong there?
It was a perfect storm of unclear orders, misinterpretations, and the general chaos of the battlefield. Many historians believe the order itself was the result of miscommunication, a misunderstanding of which artillery battery the Light Brigade is meant to target. Add to that the pressure to achieve a decisive victory, the lack of clear communication, and you have a recipe for disaster.
Wow. It really highlights how even a seemingly small miscommunication can have devastating consequences, especially in the heat of the moment.
Absolutely, the fog of war, as they call it.
It makes you realize that clear communication is essential no matter what the situation. But then you also have blunders that aren't about the chaos of the moment, but rather a misjudgment of a more strategic nature.
Right, like the Maginot Line.
Exactly. Building a massive wall to keep the Germans out seems like a solid plan, right?
Well, it might have worked if World War II was fought like World War I.
Ah, so they fell into the trap of preparing for the last war.
Precisely. They poured vast resources into this static defense, this Maginot Line, but the Germans just went around it with their blitzkrieg tactics.
So the lesson there is, don't get stuck in your ways.
Exactly. The world changes, technology advances, and we need to adapt our thinking and our strategies accordingly. Otherwise, we risk becoming our own Maginot Lines, stuck in the past, unprepared for the future.
That's a sobering thought. So, to wrap things up, what's the key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with today?
I'd say the biggest lesson here is the importance of constantly challenging our assumptions, whether we're on a battlefield, in a boardroom, or just navigating our daily lives. We have to be open to new information, to questioning what we think we know, and to admitting when we might be wrong.
It's like they say, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Always be learning, always be adapting, and maybe, just maybe, we can avoid a few of those what were they thinking moments in our own lives. Thanks for diving deep with us today, everyone. Until next time, stay curious.